Hey guys, what's up? Sorry, I had difficulties to get the stream running on point, but it's still 2 p.m. and yeah, I'm a little bit nervous, but I'm really happy to show you the current state of the Blocks CMS, which I was implementing the last few weeks. So basically, why a new CMS? So the idea is that most of the CMSs I used in the past had their trade-offs. So coming with a strong background in Typo 3, which is a very mature CMS. It's open source apparently. And yeah, but it has grown out of or has not grown out of its past. So it's around. I think I started using it in 2003, 4-ish, and I think one can feel the roots of the CMS from these days. So that's one thing. Then on the other hand, there's WordPress. I have to admit that my knowledge with WordPress is limited, but giving the long roots in its history and also the controversies which were happening the last few months around the CEO, which went crazy. I think it's also not suitable options. And on the other hand, there is this emerging new landscape of headless CMS systems, which I really like. So it's basically a new approach. I will go into details about how headless CMS works and what this means in our terminology and in our approach. And the basic kickoff was for me, I was using one of the current leading headless CMS systems, and they basically switched their pricing. It was a huge increase in prices in their monthly subscriptions, which made me think about turning this idea of, I think every developer, you can definitely relate, had implementing their own CMS system, and that's why I'm here. So what takes me into the position to say, okay, I'm doing it differently and doing it better. So basically the idea is to provide this CMS as 100% open source. So that's also something I'd like to emphasize in all products that I put out under the brand Coders Cantina, to have them as 100% open source. And definitely I also need to pay my bills. So there will be a monetization built around offered cloud hosting option. And these hosting options won't be tied to any feature logs or something. So you pay for traffic and storage. So basically also what my costs are in the end when I offer this hosting, it's transfer, and on the other hand, it's the storage you use. So no feature logins or paywalls, like, okay, you can only use 2 languages, or you can only have 1 user or 5 users. So it doesn't matter if you have hundreds of users. In the end, what matters on our end and what drives our costs is storage and traffic. And that's what I'm planning to build my monetization system around. So it's nothing settled right now. Basically, I'm currently in the pre-alpha phase of implementing the system. So things will turn up soon-ish. And on the other hand, regarding the open source promise, so everything will be offered 100% free, open source. So if you're willing to host it yourself, you can happily do so. And also if you like to contribute, you are also very warmly welcomed. Yeah, block CMS. So what's the basic gist of it? So it's a headless system. I also like to go into the tech stack a little bit. So my background is, as I mentioned, typo 3. So I'm coming from a PHP world, and I've adopted Laravel in my tool belt. I think 2013, it was around the first Wings for Life world run where I had to implement a huge life experience system, and the backend was implemented in Laravel. Yeah, I've made many web applications with this framework, and I feel really at home with that. On the other side, there's Frontend you need to implement for that, and it was also it came out from a side project actually. It was some sort of info system I also built for the Wings for Life World Run project, where I got my fingers wet with Vue.js. It was a very early version, if I remember correctly. It was still version 1, and basically, back in the days, we did jQuery. Then I moved over a little bit to Angular, and then found my front-end framework of love in Vue.js. So tech stack around blocks will be a Laravel backend, so it can be hosted on fairly cheap common hosting, shared hosting solutions that are available in numerous. So it's always a little bit difficult to get node-based, or in this case, Docker-based hosting fairly cheap. But so the backend will be PHP-based, and the front end is in Vue.js. And for all this out-of-the-box experience, I am using Nuxt. So there you go. We have Nuxt front end for the administration interface, and then we have Laravel on the backend, so it can be hosted nearly everywhere. So if it runs WordPress, it runs a block CMS as well. The next thing I'd like to touch is how I see the structuring of content. So Headless CMS allows you to have different content types, and especially, and I think a good approach to handle this is following atomic principles. So atomic principles means you have very small components defined as individual components or blocks in our terminology. And these things will then will be composed together to form bigger things and bigger things. So on the smallest level, we would have atoms. The next level would be molecules, and the third thing would be organisms. So what are these three things? So if you think about atoms, one can use it like a button, or a headline, or an image, menu item, or such things. What are molecules then? Yeah, it's, as I mentioned, a compound thing consisting of many things. So a molecule could be some sort of text with image element, or one could think about a slider in a carousel, or a slide in a carousel. And organisms will be translated into bigger things. So in our terminology, it's like these old, big, fat content elements you have in, like, for example, typo 3. So it will be a hero, and a hero can then consist of different slides or a text with image element, or it can consist of a background image and have then an area where you can put other blocks into it. So I think that's one of the crucial things, how modern content management or modeling should look like. So, and it's called Atomic Design Principles. All right, so with that ready, I think we can now tackle different things that are unique in blocks. So blocks architecture. As I mentioned, as an administrator, you have a backend where you can customize different things. In this case, you can define all content elements. So it's a, let's say, non-code or no-code approach where you really click together your content elements, and these content elements will then be used to create contents. So basically, to also think about how the whole system is built. Basically, we have the concept of teams. A team can have users which are members of this team. So that is used as one relation. And then teams can create spaces. I'm not sure about the terminology right now. I'm also thinking about calling it experiences. Not sure yet. But teams will have spaces. And with that basic architecture, we can handle different approaches which are required for example, for having agencies which will then have different clients, and so teams can also have a relationship on their on itself. So I'm not sure. I think that's a curly one. Yep. So teams can have a relationship to teams. So basically, you will create an account for your agency, and then you will create a team, and then you will create a different sub-team, let's call it that way, for your clients. And these clients will then have different spaces or experiences, and that are basically unique content structures. So a space could be used, for example, for you have a web page or website, and then you have a completely different landing page, which is not connected with the main website. Then you would create two spaces. Yeah, and then in spaces you have it's really contained elements, and there you can have different assets, your assets, you can have your content elements and your blocks. I also like to mention that my approach is to have this CMS very opinionated. If you think about other headless systems, I think they lack some functionality. So for me, for example, it's really crucial to have redirects built in. So basically, I would suggest we dive into the backend, and I will show all these things on real examples. So as I mentioned, it's not scripted, it's not rehearsed, it's just me trying to show the current state. So basically that's the first thing users will see. Apparently I have already 2 spaces created. The whole team's management is not yet implemented, but but the basic structure is prepared. And yeah, so basically I'm in the backend and I have to experience setup. I would like to go through the creation process with you to showcase how it works. So please don't pin me on the numbers. It's just a plain example right now. And also the included options are not set in stone yet. So I will select the free option and then I give it a name. So let's start with demo. And so as you can see, there's server locations, also the hosting option where I host this application is not yet set in stone. I have deep experience with AWS, so it will most likely be AWS, but it's not set in stone. I'm also looking for other options, especially if you think about this dependency of companies outside of the US on US companies. I don't want to touch this political topic right now, but in the end, being a little bit independent from US companies would be good. But in the end, I will also prepare also everything hosting related. So if it is AWS, it will be CDK to manage the infrastructure, and also the infrastructure code will be released open source. So you can replicate my whole setup. Yeah, and so I'm planning to allow different regions. So there will be a main region which will host every user login, every billing details, everything regarding the whole setup. But your content, especially your database and your assets and storage, will be located near you. So if you plan to use it in Europe, you will be in Europe, and there will be options in US, Asia, and so forth. So I've created the demo account, and it seems that there is the redirect still missing from demo or thank you page to showcase what happened. So basically I've created a demo space and there's an error. So no stats yet to show, but what I'd like to show you, there will be a dashboard. I'm not quite sure why it's working in other spaces and not in this newly created one, but in the end I will have a short overview what's happening in your space, so you can see your API requests and your average response time for the content delivery, so you are always on top of your stats. Going back to the demo account, I think that's something that is after the live stream. So as I mentioned, we have our first thing to set up are the blocks. So as I explained, I'd like to start with atoms. So let's start with the really basic one. Let's call it button. I have icon possibility to really differentiate your different content elements. And navigation directions, let's use this arrow, and there are also some color options, and let's give it a simple description, a simple button. Creating blocks will consist of basically two required elements. The first thing is a name, so it's something for the users in your backend. And then we have the technical name, which will be exposed to or via the API. I think I know what's happening. So basically, as I said, not rehearsed and not scripted. I'm using Laravel as mentioned, and Laravel offers this live feedback integration. So you can have push updates, let's put it that way, from the backend, and it's built around Laravel Reverb, and I need to start that thing. Oh, and I had to work on a project in the morning which requires PHP 7.4, so let's quickly switch to the latest PHP version. So it's built around 8.4. And now I can start the Reverb server. On that note, if any one of you watchers have any questions, just drop it in the chat. If it's something that is easily answered, I will tackle it right now, and I plan to offer a Q&A session at the end of the stream. So giving it a refresh, I think we should see, no, let's create it again, button. Let's take the rocket for now. I think there might be an issue with the created space. But yeah, in this case, I'd like to switch over to the blocks space, which I know is working, and we create something new here. So I would start, I said headline would be something. Then let's see if I find something appropriate for that. Okay, it seems that, yeah, this is a good headline. So headline is created, and then you can define different sections, and in these sections you can define different fields, which then be from different types. So there is a text type, there's a number type, there's a text area. Markdown will be supported from the very beginning, but I'm also working on a rich text editor. Then blocks will be basically, you can nest blocks, so that's where this atomic design principles come into play. So nesting different content elements. Then we have a single option. Single option means, yeah, a simple select box, multi options where I can select multiple things. And then we have a link, a Boolean, a asset, and a multi-asset element, which are still to be implemented. So I'm right now focusing on getting the basics done, and then, yeah, moving to the more sophisticated elements. But yeah, if we go to the button element, there's also the possibility to define preview templates. It's using handlebars as templating language. So yeah, this part is mostly relevant for developers, and I think you can assume that handlebars syntax is something that is fine. But in a further note, we can definitely switch that out to something where we can click things together. Yeah, and if we go through, so there's this link element, you can now define it. So there are always different options for each field type. If we switch over to the second tab, there is a styling tab I have configured. So as I mentioned, you can create different tabs to group input fields together. And if we expand this variant option, you can see, okay, a technical name is set. I would rather say it's a required field. And then we have different options to work with. So what I also like to showcase, I'm focusing on user experience. So the input should really work easily. So you can use the arrow keys to move between the lines. And if I click enter, Okay, it's not working. So basically, it should create. I think there is a length target is read only. Yeah, I recently switched out everything to be really compliant for views, nesting and propagation system, and I think I've missed this one. So basically, you would really have the possibility to click enter and move into the next line. So showcasing this, and then I will create this one, and if I jump over, yeah, things are easily set up. Basically, this name should also be created automatically. Not sure why this is also not working. I think it's related to the issue with the read-only list. And then the default value, it's also autocomplete, so I can only select things that are present here. Yeah. Also with some issues. So what's also missing right now, I'd like to have two features to organize these blocks. So there will be folders, and then there will be tags, and tags can then be used as a powerful tool to tag individual elements. And so one tag will definitely be, or should be in your system, to have atoms, molecules, and organisms. And then you can really define dependencies. So if we go to the menu, you can see I have a header, and then we have items, which an items element field, which is a blocks element, and there you can define which elements you can nest. This will also be a drop down with autocomplete, so you can only select the currently available items. Right now it's just a check text box. And there will also be the possibility to use a folder and tags. And with that, you have a real easy way to define, okay, atoms can only be nested into certain organisms or molecules. So that will be a very easy way for you to group things. Then we have, for example, simple text, which consists of a header, a body text, and a buttons element. So you can really define these simple texts, which will then be nested, for example, in a hero, which can consist of background image and then different content elements. And for example, there I could restrict it and only allow this simple text to be placed into. All right. So heroes would be in our terminology. You need to define it your own way. I think it's good to provide some sort of guidance, but in the end, teams and requirements are different, and so everyone can set up their system on their own. So if it's for you an organism or a molecule, please define it. So for me, a menu item would be an atom. It can't live on its own, to say it so. A menu would be an organism, a molecule, which could potentially live on its own, but in the end, there would be a hero and a footer section in the config. So that's also something. Config is for me definitely an organism, and this config section will be used to configure the site configuration. There you would define a site name, and then there's the header element. I've prepared for this example something with a menu. And then you would have actions, for example, CTAs on the right. And then in the footer, social links, footer text, the copyright, and also a footer menu. So in the end, organisms will then be used to form creative things, and molecules will fit into them. And there are also some atoms here. All right, so this is the current state of the blocks configuration. As you can see, there is already a good base, but yeah, things are still to be implemented. All right, going into the content section. So basically what I also need to implement is blocks can be divided into two different categories. So there will be blocks that will be repeated and reused as like Lego blocks in your content modeling. And on the other hand, there will be blocks that sit on some sort of root element, let's call it that way. So for example, config will be a single root element, so you can only have one config per space, which makes sense. So you wouldn't define different, but I think that there will be a use case where you can have different configs if you have some sort of multi-site configuration. Yeah, that's up to you. You can do that, but in the end, if you think about, okay, one space, one product, you have one configuration and one menu, for example. And this will be built around this single-use root elements. And then if you think about page and think on traditional content management systems, then you have multiple pages which can be nested, and those different types still need to be implemented to handle them differently. So now you could just add a button here, but it wouldn't make sense. But in the end, we can start building content right now. So as you can see, I have this config, and as I switched over to this blocks space, I would go the route to reactivate a landing page, which I had set up in the past to really showcase what I had in mind for today. So switching to this landing page. Why I'm switching? Because the code for the client integration is now still just in a project. It will be extracted into a Node package, which you will install into your project. And I'm also thinking about providing some sort of Nuxt layers to streamline the integration with our API. And my main focus for the initial release will be on Nuxt, and further SDKs like for Next.js or other popular frameworks will follow soon-ish. All right, so quick overview. I have some simple elements here. So basically I'm working on the landing page for blocks itself. So if we go into the landing page, I have just one landing page configured, and there was some unexpected loading, but let's get the landing page started. So I will boot this Nuxt project, which is currently basically very simple, but there are already some content elements ready. I will show it to you in a while. But if I give it a refresh, I should see, yep, it's loading. So basically, that's the landing page. The current landing page, which is live on blocks.com, is a statically built version, which is basically hard-coded. And with the current progress of the CMS, I can already integrate all required things for the landing page. So it will soon be swapped out with one that is served via the CMS. So basically, that's the content view for the editors of in the CMS. So basically, there you have your project, and you can define a tree of your content, so compare it to a folder tree in your CMS. All right. Then we have this real-time view where you can see your content, and on the right you have a more classical approach to manage content. So you can really click into each content element and have the possibility to edit. So for me, real life editing really means you can really work on the page. So yeah, it's really possible to work in your content and not in input fields. So everything that is on the page and is connected from code to some sort of content element, content field is truly editable on the website. So basically everything here, all cool features, build, I think, content, build websites with blocks. So it's possible to work really in real time on your content. It's also possible to add another button, button 2, or buttons, and I can also edit it in here. So as you can see, I've implemented some sort of scroll into view, which is a little bit interfering with the experience. So I will note that for a later revision. Yeah, so that's the current state of the editing functionality. So as I mentioned, basic content elements are already ready. I'm now working towards implementing all the asset delivery. I've finished the image manipulation and delivery subsystem. So you will have a cool, nice SDK, or if you think about Nuxt with Nuxt image, you have 100% integration, and you can use Nuxt image to generate the corresponding URLs to blocks. So it's a real-time integration. Real-time integration, a real deep integration into the framework. So you don't have to do some manual stuff to get responsive images. All right. So the right side, as I mentioned, you have also the possibility to enter things here. You have basically the page, which I have configured to have a body. And in this body, I enter different elements. We also have the option to double click here. So a drop-down menu, context menu will be implemented. So let's call it blocks home. It's called blocks home. And as I saw that we had some sort of delay, I am hoping to show you another cool feature. No, not set. Zen, I always get confused with those two. So Zen is this Firefox fork that allows you to use Firefox a little bit differently. So I will open another session. In this browser, I'm working on the landing page project. So let's open two windows side by side. Let's get rid of this menu, of the sidebars. I'm not sure how to get rid, but let's keep it open. So I'm working on the landing page. I go into content. So really, there should be interesting. It should be collapsible somehow, but not really. What I like to show you is I've built in real-time editing and syncing. So I think if I rename it to blocks again. Okay. That's also for a further demo. In the end, the approach will be that you can really live edit and collaborate on content elements together, and you can see live updates from other users. apparently Reverb has some issues. Okay, there is no communication working. Not sure. All right. Yeah. And then you have the possibility to define the internal name here, and also the slug. And that's where I'd like to show you something, not here, but in this block space. I think there's more content already there. Yes, so there's basically a tree, as I mentioned, so you can define your content tree. And if you, a footer is not a real meaningful way, but in the end, let's call it B. And if I go here, I can also rename the slug. And that's where the interesting part is happening. For me, a CMS system should assist you while managing content. And therefore, I think it's crucial to have redirects built in. So every time we work with projects, with real websites, and take care about SEO, it's always crucial to have redirects ready, so content will be moved, and blocks is already prepared for that, and it will create redirects automatically. So yeah, this is our redirects management, and as you can see, I have renamed the home test footer. I think it's sorted, created at, so this should be today. So I've renamed the footer to B, and then redirect is automatically created. That's something you can then use in your frontend or page implementation. Either you fetch it via the build process and do it in your Nuxt config in your routes redirects configuration, or you have your own redirect implementation to handle these things. But in the end, if you rename something, you will be covered. And also one thing that is this common is that things will change, and things could be changed back. And in this case, I create a rename it to footer again. And in this case, we would potentially create a redirect loop. We had the site footer renamed to B, renamed to footer again, and so we would create an infinite loop. And if everything is working correctly, I should reload. Okay, I haven't implemented that. I have removed. That's something I haven't seen. I've removed the home footer redirect to home B, which is now redundant. But I have created the redirect from B to footer again. So yeah, no redirect loops, but full integration with redirects. Also on that note, if I rename this home to let's rename it root for God's sake, and go back to the redirects. Okay, everything that is below is also redirected. So home is redirected to root, home footer is redirected to root footer, and so forth. So in the end, we got you covered, and all your SEO needs. If you rename things, one burden less with the redirects. All right, and that's why I'm thinking, okay, it's a headless CMS, but in the end, it's some sort of opinionated headless CMS, which really gives you the tools you need for your website. But as mentioned, headless CMS also work perfectly for app development or whatever you would need content. So the next thing I'd like to showcase is the asset management. Let me quickly pull up some images. So basically, hopefully everything is working here. So asset management allows you to create folders. There are apparently translations missing. So also on that note, the whole backend will be translated in multiple languages, of course. So let's start with, is there something like pictures, mountains, then let's call it landscapes, and give it a green color. Create folder is not defined. So sorry, no folders to show off right now. But in the end, trust me, folders can be managed in the system. But one thing I'd like to show you as well, in the configuration section, you can define further configuration for your space. Also, for example, define different environments. And as mentioned, no feature paywall whatsoever. If you have 100 environments, I'm not sure why, but you can. Internalization is also covered. You can have 100 languages. If it fits your need, please do so. And then we have also access tokens. These access tokens are used for your front-end integration. You can have as many as you like. And then this section why I am here right now. So you also can define for the asset library different fields. So there are two basic fields which are, let's call it system fields, or created per default for you. So these are not deletable. It's the alt text and the description, but you can define a text or a user readable label. And then you're able to define whatever you need to work with your content, define your fields, what you need in your asset library. And you can also define if it's a required field or an optional field. So if you require to have an alt text and a copyright note for each asset that is uploaded, you would configure it this way, click save, and you're ready. On that note, I got a really cool feedback from a colleague. It would be great to have folders that allow to override the required fields. So you can have a folder for images, and you would always need to define an alt text, and then they would have something like documents or brochures or what. So where an alt text, like for PDFs, is not really needed, then you would configure it as optional in this folder only, or the other way around for the assets folder only there. So that's already planned. One thing I'd like to also note, when uploading assets, we have already a great, let's call it interpretation logic in place. So if you upload image files, we gather all metadata out of it. So if it has EXIF data, you will be covered, and you can access and see it. If there is, if you upload audio files like MP3s, we read ID-free tags. If you upload videos, we also get video information. So everything that is embedded in your content will be extracted and used there, also for PDFs and so forth. And speaking of videos, videos will also automatically generate 3 different thumbnails. So we have a thumbnail for the very first frame, then we have one for I think it's the 5th second, and then in the middle of the clip. So you have 3 different thumbnails generated. automatically, which will be delivered with the response for video assets, and you can use it as a placeholder in your usage. All right, switching back to the content area. We were in the asset area, and let's upload some images. So you have different ways. You can click upload and drop files here, or you can or should be able to drag files into here. Then the upload dialog will open automatically. You can add more files. You can click into one image, and then we do Salzburg from river. Okay. That's not meant to be there. So yeah, basically you can create and manage all tags. Those should not be carried over to the next one. And yeah, let's upload these 3 images. And image upload broken, as I said, not scripted. But let's figure out what's happening. Internal error 500. Let's retry. Asset upload. Failed to store asset, no query result for model storage. I think that's not fixable on stream right now to not lose things I would like to showcase. But I should have another space prepared with already images there. Sorry. Let's reload from the root, and let's go into this space, and there should be images. Yep. So some images. As you can see, we have metadata extracted, the size, width and height, aspect ratio, original file name. So you will be able to rename the file name if you accidentally uploaded this crappy file name, and for SEO purposes need a proper one, you can do so. Also for images, you will be able to set a focal point. So in our SDK, you can have different manipulations like crop fit and so forth. And for the there will also be a smart option to identify the most interesting part in the image, let's put it that way. It's based on the WIPs library, and there's a smart focus feature integrated. But in the end, if this fails, you can always manually set a focus point. So if you imagine we have a group picture and we have the heads in this area, and we would crop it in something like this, then we would lose the heads of the people. So then you if you set this, the algorithm would focus it, something like that. All right, assets, check. Next thing I'd like to show today is the content management history, and therefore let's switch to a smaller page again. So I think it's in the landing page. History. My idea is to provide something like we developers know from our daily workflow when using source code versioning. So if we go to our history tab, the idea is to have a Git-like history for your content. So it's always possible to go back to a specific state. And I think I'm going to I'm on the landing page. So this is currently a placeholder, but think of it that you see each field that was changed in this save operation. but the cool thing is you can also visually go back in time. So if I click through each version, you can see, okay, I'm going from a very empty page to a page which already has the header in place and this features element and this core principle element. When I go further into the future, there is this form coming. And if you go to the published version, which is currently, you can see, okay, there's also this content available. Green dots mean this page state was published at a given time, and the tag published marks the currently published version. And as you can see, I made some edits, and these edits will then be marked as a draft version, and it's the current draft version. So what I can do right now, I could go to this page or to this version and define it as new draft. So this is now the current draft and the published version. And if I go back to the editor and go here with for the sake of the demo, let's call it version now. I clicked save. Not sure what's happening because I missed the... Okay, it's saving, but there should be a toast popping up that the version got saved, but okay. For now, it was saved, so then let's call it version 2. Then let's call it version 3. And now we decide, okay, we are happy, we will publish it. So it is now published. As you can see, in the history, we have 3 versions. So there's this one version that was branched off from there. So expect a proper connected line in the final version. But in the end, you can see we have some Git-like history. You can also go there and rename things to content up. Yeah, but you get the gist. Content. Okay, it's interesting. You can update or attach some messages. So, and if you think, okay, this version here, version now, is the better version, I can republish this one again, and I can branch off from here and leave these changes for further references. So I think it's a really good approach to handle history or previous states. And as mentioned, if you go the cloud hosted option way with my hosting option, it's no feature wall breaking your history, or you have only 7 versions or 7 days versions accessible. You get history forever. All right. What is planned also for this version history thing? If you think about your Git workflow, you're familiar with branches, and you can also do some sort of merges. That's something that is not implemented here, but what we have to help your workflow is to provide something like releases. So a release would be that you prepare certain changes and think of tags, whatever. So you have, for example, the requirement is to have prepare for holiday season. So you would have 3, 5, 10, whatever, or all pages will change. So you can prepare the content and tag it as release version, Christmas holidays, prepare everything, and then set a release date for the changes, and everything will go live with this release at once and prepared and scheduled beforehand. So no, I have to make changes on the weekend things, so you can prepare everything in your normal work hours and then schedule it for specific releases. That's planned for that. And the last thing I'd like to show off in the backend is the translations feature. So let's get back to the configuration of the space. So I have configured no language. So I have the impression that this is also not working because of the read-only changes. But let's give it a try. Oh, it's working. That's good. I'm happy. So I will offer French and German as additional languages, and my basic language is English. So configuration for translations is set, and now let's head over to the landing page, and now we have the burden to translate everything, right? No. So no translatable field found. Yeah, let's set up this thing. So I haven't planned to have a multi-language landing page for blogs, but let's configure things to allow translations. So the label of this button will be translatable. I really missed the okay. Saving did not work here. Post patch. What do we get back? Schema label translatable false. That's a bummer. Yeah, as I said, not scripted. Current state, so we can do these things in database also. Not the ideal approach, but that needs to be done right now this way. So we have this node as translatable. Then we go to the button and have the label translatable. Then we have the hero. Text is definitely translatable. And also do this one as well for now, just to have something ready. All right, so landing page, content, and yeah, let's get back to translating. And what I have implemented is AI integration. So basically, you can translate it in this view. So you have everything that is translatable on this page on one site. So it's very easy for you to see the original value and the desired value. You can also see it's a placeholder right now because it would allow direct fallback. So it's possible to partially translate things, which is not ideal, but it's possible. And you can translate everything here. As I mentioned, AI integration is implemented, so basically you can use AI to get an initial translation, or if you think it's fine, you can use that as well. You see which fields were updated in this call, and you can click save and have a German version, and same goes for the French version. In the hosted option, you will be given a certain amount of AI tokens and invocations. And for your self-hosted option, please bring your own API key. I'm currently using AWS Bedrock because I got some credits for my startup account to try out AI, and that's why I'm using it. But you're free to implement different integrations and also provide it as a merge request, and then we can all have fun together with different AI integrations. And I think this concludes the demo from the backend. I'd like to also showcase some code, specifically the landing page integration, SDK, whatever you call it. So if you think about this landing page, let's bring up the code and I will guide you through. For some reason, my cam overlay is on the wrong side. So let's move me over here and then it should be possible to, no. That's interesting. I actually plan to use Mail Studio for this live stream to multi-stream to Twitch and to YouTube, but for some reason YouTube, or they had an issue with the YouTube integration. So I went back to my old OBS setup, and yeah, that's why we're here. And apparently my talking head was on the wrong side. Back to the code. So the integration I'd like to show today. Basically, it's a normal Nuxt application which I have set up. So the one thing that is, so we start with basic integration. I'm also hopping on to using ShadCN, so hence these two, and Recker UI, ShadCN as mentioned. I also like Post-Hoc for now, so thanks Theo for the recommendation. Tailwind is also a given, and then we have a typical installation for now. Then we find everything that is blocks related under these layers. I'm still not yet sure how to approach it, if it will be a fully contained node package that you install, or if we have something that's somehow spills into your code base, so you have full control in your client integration. That's still yet to be decided, but in the end, it is architectured as Nuxt layer. And if we go through the structure, so we have a Nuxt config, which consists of a token and an API URL. For ease of sake, I've integrated it directly here. And then we have types. These types will be auto-generated. So no need for you to do something on that, and you have full type safety in your code. So there will be there is a command which a CLI command which integrates and fetches everything from your current space. So you will get full type safety types for every content element. So I think that's not a nice but a required approach these days. Then you have a plugin which integrates or initializes the client and also the preview bridge, which allows this one-to-one relationship between the visual editor and the backend interface. In the library, we have library code. So currently there are two directives you will have to use in your code. The first is editable, which marks whole content elements and links content elements or blocks with components, view components with content elements, with blocks in the CMS. So if we go in our blocks directory, we have the hero, and you can see I attach this directive and link this code with the given block from the backend, which allows that this whole section is linked with this whole thing. And for every field, there is this editable field where you give the block ID and the field, and so you can have the one-to-one relationship from this headline to this input field. So features 2, it works in both directions. Therefore we have these two directives. Then there's the API fully typed. Then we have composables, so you can use it in your code to fetch data from the blocks API. It's basically also used, as I mentioned, I'm currently working on transferring the static side to the blocks-based or backed API thing, and so there is still the initial content here. But coming back, there is this use content, and we will, where is it? Use content, one line below, and call it with the current slug. So basically the content, the pages will be accessible via the full slug. So if you think about this blocks page, it's home. So it always starts with a slash and then goes deeper. So if you go into, I think Neon Black had a deep structure, which I copied from a large project from ours. And if we go into this info, okay, seems broken. Let's go to, I think all this Cantina had, nope, it's empty. Demo landing page. I think then it was blocks. Yeah, we have a content structure, and if you look there, we have always full slugs, and this is also how you would access the content via the API. All right. And then we have the base component to say, which will resolve your component dynamically. So this will look in the blocks folder and integrate and resolve the required block dynamically. And it's also asynchronous, so you won't have a big chunk of JavaScript, or your bundle won't be a big chunk with all blocks, but they are dynamically resolved. And yeah, as I mentioned, you have full type safety. So we have this generated interface, TypeScript definition with interfaces. And yeah, you have the hero element, the features element, everything that is exposed via the API will be fully typed here. I've also chosen to use this two files approach, so it allows you to override things on your own. All right, I mentioned there is, okay, it's not integrated here. Let me quickly open, I hope this is the right CLI. Yep. And I closed the other one. That was not my intention. Yep. Blocks app. Oh, I closed the landing page. Got it. Let's fire this up again. And this CLI, also fully open source, will offer the integration to create the types for now, and this will also be used to allow you to import, export, dump, create whatever you need to interact on a large scale, and not via the interface. So it's possible for you to manage everything via API and perhaps, if needed, with this CLI. Let's see if this is working. Blocks generate types, and you also have to define the space. Okay, blocks API domain. We're still not live. And there is an error. Okay, so with that, I think, let me quickly go through my touch points I'd like to cover. I think everything I had in mind for now, for today, has been touched. If any one of you has any question, feedback, whatever, please speak up now, write in the comment, in the chat. I will stick around a little bit longer if something comes up. Yeah, as mentioned, this integration with assets. Oh, what I can show right now is the image server API. Perhaps that's from interest for you. Currently I have the issue that the VIPs library is not working on my machine. So I have to fire up a Docker container which has the VIPs library correctly integrated. And then I can show you the image manipulation that is already in place. So basically VIPs is a high performance image library, so you can compare it to GD or ImageMagick, but it has more, or the focus is more on performance, and that's why I switched so I had an image server in place, I think since 2016, which served really well, but in the end it's ImageMagick based. It was good in these days, but nowadays it's a little bit slow, but I carry over the knowledge and the learnings into this image manipulation service, and it will be based on VIPs, which is more performant and also used in a broader context these days. And VIPs is integrated in PHP via FFI. FFI is some sort of integration for PHP to allow to run native C code. And yeah, also as you see, Caddyfile, my newest approach to provide Docker images for Laravel is using Franken PHP. So I use the latest 8.4 version in using a Alpine Linux distro, and yeah, it's the Franken-PHP, install some libraries, and then the thing I changed to the normal provided base Docker image is to add a supervisor, which allows me to run the Caddy server and Reverb in parallel via supervisor and keep them up and running. So if one of the processes dies, a new one will be spawned instantly. So Docker is up. Let's see if I think it was 8,000 Elum and not HTTP. So I have my image, and the manipulation service will be that you attach, so you have your space ID, your storage ID, the asset ID, the file name for SEO purpose, and then you have the possibility to add all manipulations. So one could go and say, I'd like to have this with a width of 128 pixels and a height of 64. Okay, no cropping. Why no cropping? I think I see crop, I think was the syntax. Okay, now it's just cropping, and then there should be C fit. And now I can do 128. Let's see in the docs, or not in the docs, in the code. CMS, Elum controller. So Elum was also a code name for the image server, which I carried over into this implementation. So there should be the call. So we have, it's C, that was right. Okay, gravity defines the target point. So we have fill and not fit. And now we have cropped a vertical image of my photo. Then we can define gravity, one, I think it's P for percent. Let's look that up. Yeah, so can define center face auto, or you have, percentages. So at like 1%, 1%, and you have basically this pixel always in place, no matter how you crop it. So let's see if we can do, I would say it's 50% to get the middle and 25 to my eyes. And if I now use a very landscape image, so that's basically the focal point carried over from the backend into this URL. But no worries, there will be a integration with Nuxt image, which will compose this URL for you. So you only have to define how big you would like to have the images, and the rest is carried out for you. So guys, thank you very much for joining for this first office hours. It was a pleasure for me to host it. It really puts me also under the pressure with public eyes watching me to get things done, to give you some sort of outlook for the timeline of Block CMS. So as I mentioned, there was this huge price hike from well-known other headless CMS systems. And with that in mind, I have one project, one real life client project I need to carry over. And this will be ready hopefully end of June. And with that the first initial alpha will go live. And for anyone who is interested to, get your things wet and try it out for yourself, hit me up. I will provide early access for friends and family, so to say. And anyone who is interested will get access and can play around. So expect something to be ready end of June. Yeah. Then, as always,